What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. You are listening to episode 188. I am here tonight with Ryan, and oh my god, the missing person posters worked, and we have found Tyler in a brand new apartment. How are you guys doing tonight?
I am in awe of, it's even like the gods are shining down upon Tyler, the fact that he's here right now. The light's hitting you just right. You're glowing, Tyler. You're glowing.
Mo Jesus is above him.
Well, you know what?
Perfect. Perfect.
I don't have the long hair though. Yeah, no, I mean it's good to be back. I shouldn't miss any more unless there's any more unexpected moves, which I do not see.
Or missed text messages or forgetting that it's Monday. I mean, it's.
Oh, I mean, it's been hectic moving out of my parents' house. You know, you never really realize how much shit you have until you move. Like even me, like I didn't take everything. Like I ended up keeping a room there because, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Bring all this to the apartment and make this place all cramped up? I'm not going to do that. So
right,
they're paying your parents for storage.
No, they're fine and willing to leave that room fine for a little while anyway.
Great.
Is this your first move out?
Yes, that's
You're
correct.
A big boy now.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, congrats.
27 years old. It's my first new place being out of my
You know what? I envy you for not having to worry about moving out until 27. I went to school at 18 and I never moved back home after that. For me, I take that back. I was home for 6 months, but that was only because it was between me getting home and going into basic training.
That must have been the most miserable 6 months of your life.
It wasn't bad, but it was because I had completely flipped my life around and I was going into the Army. So,
got it. Well, I'm living with an Army vet right now.
Oh, he better not have heard you.
So.
He's gonna get upset with you.
Why?
Isn't Ryan in the Marines?
No. Ryan's in the Marines, but Dan's in the Army.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was an extra one. I only knew
in the Army.
I only knew a Boston Ryan over there. So
yeah, no, I shouldn't have any more issues.
Well, right. Good. Because we've got some issues tonight. So we have a show.
I don't think we should just let it be just tonight, but
we've got issues like ongoing, but we've got some recent issues. And it's a show. We've got a show, and these shows get harder to do the more nothing happens. Dylan Larkin still doesn't have a contract. That's something we're going to talk about in a second.
That's upsetting.
We had been asked by a few people now to do like we were asked to do a top 20 Red Wings prospect ranking. I don't have that kind of time right now. So I did my top 10. We're going to discuss the top 10 Red Wings prospect ranking, at least what ours is. It looks very similar to what a lot of the other people have out there, the media. And I think Detroit Hockey Now put one out. The hockey writers put one out. So mine looks very similar.
That time of year for the lists to be getting.
Yeah, because again, there's nothing else going on. World Juniors is done. USA versus Canada women's played today.
And 5 straight goals from the U.S. women after being down 2-0.
It was intense. But we got a show. And like I said, in a couple weeks, we're going to have a guest on. I'm going to try to line one up for next week, too. Get a couple on before we really kick off the season. And I'm working on some awesome guests for during the season. And it'll be really cool if everything comes together. So just a little tease there, and then I can't give away many specifics because if it doesn't happen, then no one can be mad at me, right?
I am bummed that I'm going to miss the next one, but
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But I think we're going to have
a good
Ethan
fill-in. It's going to be. I'll be gone for my dad's birthday though. So we're going to a Tigers game, so that's a valid excuse in my book.
Happy birthday, Dad! But what we are going to talk about first is we don't have. I use the word beef. We don't have a beef with him, really. I mean, so a lot of the writers, the beat writers in Detroit, have a certain level of bootlicking to them, I guess you would say. They really don't like to veer off of the whole Red Wings are awesome path, leave them alone. One of the biggest offenders is Ansar Khan. Ansar Khan will block you for any reason he deems fit. I believe as a member,
for instance, asking if Jonathan Ericsson's going to get benched.
Yeah. Just asking, a question about the team that you cover. And I feel as a media member, you shouldn't be blocking people like that. It is your responsibility. You took the job, you answer the questions, and life goes on. And that was a pertinent question almost every night of his last few seasons is Jonathan Ericsson going to be benched? You should just be able to either A, ignore the question, or B, answer the question honestly. And it's a reason that Darren McCarty really told us, guys, never be media.
Yep.
Because when you're media and you're designated as media, you have to follow a certain set of rules and kind of toe the company line for the most part. So when Ansar Khan wrote this article, now granted, I will preface this by saying there is hope and positivity in the article.
Yeah.
There is one sentence.
But I'll add a little bit more. There's a lot of good details here.
Sure.
It explains how Larkin changed his agent, which we had talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably one of the agency he went over to.
Very high profile hockey agent.
Such as Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, Nathan McKinnon, Matt Duchene, Jack Eichel, Jack Hughes, and as well as Red Wings, Vrana and Raymond.
Big names.
So there's names that if you're a common hockey fan, you know, which now leads into the fact that, hey, these guys all very good, all make good money. So continue.
Yeah. And for those that know the agents, I mean, Matt Williams and Pat Brisson are the agents. They're very, very well-known hockey agents. It's KO Sports. He switched from KO to CAA. CAA is who he's with now. So Larkin, coming off his most productive season since 2018-19, 31 goals and 69 points in 71 games, due for a sizable bump from the $6.1 million cap hit he's currently on.
Mm-hmm.
The sentence I don't like, and this bugged me, and it bugged a lot of other people agreed. Like, I think it was inappropriate for this to be written because it's a stir the pot sentence. Now, some people said it's his job. I don't think it is. The sentence was, no deal is done, so it's safe to assume Larkin's agent and Red Wings general manager Steve Yzerman are far apart. That is, I would say, fairly large insinuation that I don't like.
Especially when there's no sources.
Nothing.
No comments of like the agency stating that this is what's going on. Larkin's been pretty open about the conversations when he's been broached about it, especially way back in early summer. Yzerman's made it clear that they're looking to get a deal done. Obviously, up to this point, and with anything in general, Yzerman keeps these things close to the chest. So to come out and say, I think that's what pissed me off the most too. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of stealing the thunder tonight.
No,
but
go.
It's the safe to assume part of it is. I don't think it's safe to assume. I mean, I know there's people that argue that, you can probably assume that. Sure. But
have we seen anything safe to assume with Steve Yzerman?
No.
Nothing.
And you can't. That's what bugs me though. But to be someone like Ansar, he's been around. How long has he actually been around?
A long
Decades.
time.
Too long.
Decades. So he knows his
centuries,
shit.
Maybe eons.
That's also possible. But to me, it was a bit of a reckless statement. And the only reason I say that is because no one has any idea what's going on. I don't think it's safe to assume that at all because we see how quickly a contract comes out of nowhere, Zadina, and what Yzerman can do. Like, we didn't have any hint other than, I think, Kopp going into free agency that something was going to happen. Like, none of what goes on, to say it's safe to assume that they're far apart, I don't like it. Unless, now, if something were to finally come out, and that was actually the case, then sure, I'll eat some crow and I'll give him some due. But to not even say that, according to sources or someone familiar with the situation, it seems that they're far apart, that I would be like, oh shit, things are getting real over there.
If he would have followed it up, he dropped that sentence and then just went right into Larkin changed representation. Here are last season's stats. Yeah. And he does go on to say that it'll get done. Larkin's performance could influence the cap figure. Maybe he's betting on himself. It's likely it'll be an 8-year deal. I think that now we had talked, I believe Larkin comes in at an 8-year deal between 8.5 and 9.5 million. With the contracts that I have seen signed recently, I think it's going to be closer to that 9 to 9.5 range.
Yeah. The Tage Thompson one might have definitely secured that.
Well, the Tage Thompson, I don't like that contract at all. That was ugly.
So my thoughts on the situation are the fact that if we were to say that,
we get blasted.
We don't have insight, but we were to say that, I think it would be different. Ansar has insight and is assuming, which is totally not okay. if that makes sense.
Yes, but stop banging on your desk.
I mean, like I said, or like the rest of the article, it's a lot of what if type scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Like he goes into what he thinks that
which
his contract could be and this and that. But are we getting overly, I don't want to say upset, but hung up on this thing?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's because we're all to the point of wanting to see this contract be done. And maybe it's because that we have had beef with, I shouldn't say beef, but we've had annoyances with Ansar before, not directly, but just in things that
Steve
has been said. Yeah, true.
I will say one other thing, Ryan. The fact that this contract, like at free agency, was said to be on the final 9, and it's still not done, tells me that either 1, Larkin is betting on himself, 2, they're not that close, or 3, they're really close and they're just waiting for training camp to announce it.
That could be it too. I mean, they could have a nice kind of video or something of Larkin signing the contract at camp and all of that. But I just think it was kind of, as a writer, as one of the prominent, what I called like the main cast of Detroit hockey writers, like you're part of the main group. If there was a show about them, you'd be one of the main people.
Yeah.
To
main
say
character,
something,
if you will.
Sure. Yeah. You're like the fucking Joey on Friends or whatever. To say that it's safe to assume anything with Steve Yzerman, I think is irresponsible. And it also gives fuel to the fire of the people who already hate on Larkin constantly. Yeah. Yep. It's the Larkin is a baby diva crowd is what I have kind of coined them as. And they will see this as kind of more ammo for them to hate on Dylan Larkin. Granted, how many times has Tyler Bertuzzi held out on a contract? It's the same thing if that's the case. But I don't think that any more firepower needed to be given to those people. And that's exactly what this does. Yeah. So I want to go into God damn it. And this is the thing. I want to go into this season happy. And being happy is my goal. And this is making me not happy.
Are you doubting that gets done, though?
No, not at all. Larkin says he wants to play for this team. Steve Yzerman says he wants Dylan Larkin as a lifelong Red Wing. Yeah. I mean, that's when the lifelong Red Wing says they want you as a lifelong Red Wing, you're with the team. That's it. And Larkin's been here through a rebuild, and he sees what this team is going to be, and he's leading this team to that next step. I don't think he wants out. He has a no trade clause now that kicked in a couple months ago, so Larkin doesn't want out, and I think it gets done. I mean, I know it's going to get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it gets done.
The too. GLP guarantee Larkin will get a contract.
I think it gets done. All those reasons, and then the fact that he's the captain of the team, and the Wings aren't going to trade a captain. That's just not going to happen.
Never say never on Steve Yzerman trading a captain.
Yeah, but now that
unless they were 35 and
true, Martin St. Louis.
Now that's also not saying that Larkin is going to accept a lowball offer. I mean, you see, like I said, the contracts that are being thrown out now. You're going to get paid what you're worth. And I think if you're going to pay a guy what he's worth, Dylan Larkin's that guy. If you're going to bet on a guy, Dylan Larkin's that guy. The other guys you would bet on are Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond. Those are the other two. They'll actually probably also get their contracts next season because they'll be on the second year of their ELC. So
yeah, I could see that being a very high chance of that happening. Those two getting locked up. But I mean, the big thing with Larkin and his deal, it's not going to be. I mean, it could be. Again, you never know what Yzerman might do, but he's not going to be the trendsetter for that, like his tier of player, I should say. And that is that bubble top center.
You're on the elite bubble.
Yeah. That's the best way to put it, because we talked about it. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? What his stat line was in terms of centers in the league, and how you just if he actually finishes the season, he does become a top 15 scorer in the league at center. That's a big
among
deal.
All his other good stats that make him better than people that were ahead of him.
But again, you got to look back, and he has had some injuries.
Yep.
Now, granted, it's been with bad teams, so it's been easier for them to be like, "Yep, you're done. You're getting shut down for the rest of the season."
That's 2 years in a row now that's happened.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say that too. They're like, well, he's injury prone. I'm like, getting cross-checked in the neck doesn't make you injury prone.
No, it's not that he's injury prone. It's just that shit has happened. I mean, you could argue the same thing with a guy like Bertuzzi, but they had getting the shit kicked out of them.
And look at their play time too.
Yeah. And again, look at the rosters they were on. The teams weren't good. So shutting them down is better for them than them trying to actually get out there and play for nothing and get even more severely injured.
Yeah.
So going back to the article, that was just the only line that completely set me off for it.
And there were 100 other ways to say it too.
Yeah.
That did not insinuate that it's not close or whatever, because you don't. Unless you do, and then if you did, you would follow it up with a statement saying sources close to the negotiations say they're not close on a deal or something.
But you could have been like, just no deal is done, but it's hard to tell if the Red Wings and Yzerman are far apart or whether or not they just haven't been having that many conversations about it.
You could have
then you could have said the rest of it.
Yeah, you could have said one may think that, or one could assume that they're not close to a deal. Just the phrasing is bad, and I could think of 10 other ways to phrase it that would not irk me as much as that did.
Yeah.
But it's neither here nor there. But I want to get your... Yeah,
that's the point of the year we're at, where a single line in an article pisses us off.
Find something to get pissed off about before the season starts. Before we even start getting pissed off about the players.
Wait until the All-Star break before we actually start getting sad.
Oh, Lord. So I kind of, before we move on to this next part about contracts, is I want to get your guys' Dylan Larkin contract prediction. And we're going to lock in numbers here, like specific numbers. And we're not doing this
in term.
Term in AAV, and we're not doing it Price is Right style, but we're going to lock him in. And then when he does sign, which it'll probably fucking be tomorrow or something right after we record, we're going to see who's closer.
Start a tweet with each of our predictions and then tweet it out as soon as we have all three. And now we have it on record. I'm going 8 years for sure.
Yep.
If it's anything less, I'll be very surprised. And I'm going to go 9.375 with a no trade clause or no movement clause or modified no trade after year 5.
Tyler?
8 years times 9.5, so 76 million. 8 years, $76 million deal with a no movement clause, a full no movement clause.
Full no move. Oh,
they're not going to trade him. He's the captain of the team.
That was 8 years and how much?
9.5 per year. And maybe you can front load it or something.
Yeah, I'm not going that deep into it. That's just way too much effort.
And you're talking a full no move off the top.
Yeah. I don't see a point in time where you would want to trade Dylan Larkin.
Me either. Ryan, you said no trade, right?
I said
move.
Modified no trade.
No trade.
After year 5.
All right. My prediction is going to be an 8-year deal at $9.15 million with a full no move.
Full no move.
Full no move, 8 years, $9.15 million. And we'll see who's the closest, because I'm about to tweet this out right now and we might all look stupid, and that's fine. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
But I think it's generally going to be in that area. If you
start getting more than 9.5, there's no way.
No. But I mean, I think the one thing that it'll trip it up, the Nazem contract could kind of trip it up a little bit, because he got a 7x7.
Yeah, but he's going to come in higher than that.
Yep. He's that's how I said, he's significantly older than Dylan Larkin. And in a hockey term, he's still younger than me, but he's significantly older than Dylan Larkin. And in a hockey world, that matters. I also think Dylan Larkin is better than Nazem Kadri.
He would go from 6.1 million
to
9.5.
And how many years ago did he sign that contract? The 6.1? Was that 3 years?
Larkin?
His last contract.
Yeah, he signed a 5-year, $30 million extension in 2018.
So it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's even longer. So, I mean, a $3 million bump, especially with what he did last season and the going rate for top centers. And I would call Larkin already a top 15 center in the league.
Yeah. What if you gave him 8 times 10 just to get the deal done?
See, that's where you begin to bet on the player Like at that point, you're betting on Dylan Larkin consistently being like a 90-point player.
Yeah.
And I think Dylan Larkin for at least the next few years or more, say 5 years, should hover around that point per game pace. If he continues what he did last season, and we talked about our fire takes, our hot takes last episode. If Dylan Larkin can be a 95-point player or a 90-point player next season with the increased production like a Lucas Raymond in year 2, if he goes higher, get Bertuzzi consistently now on the top line, Dylan Larkin should have no problem getting in that 90-point range.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how long can he keep that up for? And if he could get in the point per game range or point per game plus range for the next 5 years, that 9.9 to 9.5 is absolutely fine. There's no issue. Even if he dips a little bit below, say he's a 75-point player in 82 games, that's not a in 2 years, 3 years, that contract's still not a problem. Because in 2 years, we should see a decently significant cap bump. So I'm not worried about it, and I think that's around what it's going to be.
I think we're in a good spot. I mean, my only surprise and my holy shit moment would be if he came in under 9 and it was still an 8-year deal. Because then I wouldn't say it's a prove it, but it's a here's what you've done for me so far and where it seems to be most appropriate. Now, does that hopefully not crush motivation of him moving forward, which it is impossible, it seems like, for that to happen because you just watch Larkin and you know what he's doing on and off the ice at all times in terms of his preparation, training, and drive. But if he brought that thing in at 8.5, 8.75,
that's a great contract.
Because what did he sign Stamkos at?
He did a significant job of doing that with Tampa Bay. He got Kucherov to take less. He got Stamkos to take less.
And he signed Stamkos to 8.5. Now, granted, different cap situation at that point.
And that was a while ago.
That was an 8-year, $68 million extension.
Yep. So, but the more recent one you could go with is Kucherov, who signed at $9.5 million. Now, it's a completely different type of player.
Yep.
And
but
you still look at it, and it's a great price point.
Let's stick with the Stamkos comparison, and which is what a lot of people try and do. And Dylan Larkin and Steven Stamkos are not the same player. At least not right now. They're not. Steve Yzerman signed Steven Stamkos to an 8-year contract at $8.5 million per season in 2016-17. I mean, it's
at that
now
point when he signed for reference was 11.64% of the cap.
It's 6 years later. Granted, we've had COVID seasons where the cap didn't move. I mean, if you sign Dylan Larkin and right now, if you sign that Steven Stamkos contract, that'd be a $10+ million player based on cap movement. You'd probably, if you signed that contract right now and Stamkos was the same age with the same production, you're probably looking at 10.5 for Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, I think the pitch though for that Stamkos extension was like, look, we have guys like Kucherov,
sure,
we have guys like Hedman, we have guys like Vasilevsky that we're going to have to pay down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want every single last dollar, you're not going to get, we can give it to you, but then we're not going to be able to keep a lot of the guys around you.
The other half of that, Tyler, is the state of Florida has no income tax.
Yeah. That's another thing. But I mean, the fact that he was able to get Stamkos to take less, I still think that there is a chance that Larkin takes less. I don't think it's going to be significantly less, but I mean, he could get 10, 12 on the open market, 10, 11 on the open market.
What?
So he could probably get 10 or 11 on the open market from another team.
So you want to know something fun here real quick, and we can go back to the 10, 11 here in a minute. So I mentioned that Stamkos' cap hit when he signed was 11.5% of Tampa's salary. If you do the 11.5% comparison for Larkin right now, 9.57.
See? So 9.15 don't look too bad.
So really, you could make that comparison that it would be like what Stamkos did for Yzerman in Tampa. If he signed at the same type of rate if Larkin signed at the same rate as Stamkos. But 10 to 11 million for Larkin on the open market, though, I could see closer
10, 5. Dude, these players like Dylan Larkin, and I'm not saying he's an Austin Matthews or a John Tavares, but like he's maybe a step below that.
And for what it's worth, Steven Stamkos signed his deal at the same age Dylan Larkin is now. Stamkos was 26 when he signed that deal.
What if we compare it to the John Tavares deal?
Oh, God. No. The John Tavares $11 million garbage contract that the Leafs gave him?
I'm not saying we'd give him that,
no.
But somebody else might.
I don't think so. I think if there was
not this year.
bidding war, if there was a bidding war for Dylan Larkin on another team, maybe some team would overpay and give him $10 million. But I think he's going to get, based on current market, get closer to the 9.
See, but here's the thing. If Steve Yzerman were to sign Larkin to an 8-year extension worth $10 million per, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't hate it.
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, there are people that would hate it. Yeah. I wouldn't hate it because I am aware that the cap is just going to keep going up. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. So we've got our Dylan Larkin predictions locked in. I think it's good. I tweeted them out. They're out there for the world to see. We're already getting responses. And one is, ouch, no one under 9. So if they end up between 8 to 9, Yzerman's a Jedi GM. Not necessarily, Tom, but I'm going off of what other contracts have been signed for recently, what Larkin's age is, what he's been doing, and I think his value to the team currently. Your depth at center still kind of sucks. So, I mean, if you didn't pay Larkin and he's like, okay, I'm gone, you're kind of really screwed. So that's
and you know, I know everyone's going to talk about, Marco Kasper.
Marco Kasper's a 2C, man.
He could be a 2C, right? Correct. And that, you know, that's probably the ceiling.
A really, really, really good 2C.
That's the high for him. So you have no replacement for Larkin if you were to walk.
You would have to flex Cop up to 1C. And that is probably not going to work too well.
So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I don't see that happening. I don't see there's any chance that he tests the open market. I think they get this done. I'm going to be honest. I think they get this done before the regular season starts.
Sure. I would hope so. And that's what Yzerman said the same. He wants to get it done. I think he said before training camp. So we'll see where that goes. But we do have one other update before we get on to our prospect projections. Philip Zadina, 3-year contract signed. 3 years, $1.825 million AAV. I think if you saw my 5-minute major, you will know that I am happy with it. I think that's a great value contract. It is a prove it. It is movable if needed. If Philip Zadina is a 30-point guy or 25-point guy the next 2 seasons or next season, you can trade him no problem to a contender to have a depth role. I just don't think you want him as a 4th-line guy on this team. You want Zadina to prove that he can do what he was drafted to do, and that's score goals. With the coach, new coaching staff, new system, get out of his own head, maybe refine his confidence. This contract could look really, really good if he can do those things.
Mm-hmm. Prove it or lose it, really, at this point.
Sure.
You have nothing to lose with this contract if you're Steve Yzerman. We know that it's been easy, I think the best way to put it, to more or less give Zadina hell because he struggled. He has struggled offensively. I mean, we talked about it, was it 2 weeks ago? Quite a bit about how he's been looking or a week or 2 ago, whatever it was. And he was helping drive play. But as you've pointed out several times over, Greg, he's had terrible luck. Now, some of that luck has been the fact that he can't escape the gravitational pull to the center of a goalie's chest with some of his shots. But it hasn't been for a lack of effort on his part. And signing him to less than $2 million, I think, is huge. He's right now a middle 6 or depth player. but he doesn't necessarily hurt your team. And as we talked about already, with the influx of talent, especially for power play and just offensively in general, like the opportunity for him to do better is there. It's just whether or not he can finally make it click. And again, he's 22. He'll be 23 in November? Yeah, right after Thanksgiving. So he's right there with Michael Rasmussen. We've seen what Raz turned it on late last season. Who knows? And Zadina's just a little bit younger than he is. So maybe this is going to be the year where we see 15, 20 goals. Do we get to 20 goals for Philip Zadina finally? Because if he finally gets to 20 goals, it's going to shut a lot of people up, us included. But it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, to me, the contract is kind of a no-brainer. I know we talked about maybe trading him, but I mean, there's no way that they were going to get the value that they needed back to justify trading Philip Zadina. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I mean, as much as I've given him shit and everybody else has given him shit, there's still some goals in that guy. He can score some goals. He's certainly a guy that if he can start getting to the dirty areas and getting some of those dirty goals, he's going to start scoring on those one-timers. And it's all about confidence. And this guy could, like we've talked about it before, he could be a 30-goal scorer. He could be a 35-goal scorer if everything goes right for him. It's just, for whatever reason, stuff hasn't gone right. I don't know if it's the team. I don't know if it's him.
I'd say a lot of it has been the team.
And also considering the players he's played with, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Putting him on the fourth line. You don't put a 6th overall pick on the fourth line. I'm sorry, you don't do it.
No, I think it's a lot of, consistency and opportunity will give Philip Zadina a boost that he needs. And if it, like I said, if it doesn't, it's a movable contract.
Well, I'll tell you what, Derek Lalonde is going to give him an opportunity.
Lalonde
is going to give him an opportunity to shine. And I mean, I don't know if it'll be on the second line. I don't know if it'll be on the third line. It's certainly not going to be on the first line.
No.
But
I think it'll be third line, honestly. I mean, I think your second line is going to be Verona, Kopp, and Perron. If you need to flex Zadina up in place of Perron, I wouldn't have an issue with it, I guess. And he's going to be, I mean, the signing proves that he's going to be given every opportunity to improve his game and do what he needs to do to hopefully take it to the next level. And if he's worse than last season, there's a problem. Not that he was bad. It's just that there was not the bump up in production that we thought there was going to be.
I'm muted. Turns out I was muted. But what I was saying on mute is that it goes back to the coaching thing. Like you said, it was Lalonde. We know where he's coming from. We've seen what Tampa has done in terms of offensive production from guys that you necessarily maybe not have thought were gonna bring that for you. And also, they had what in hockey? One of the best power plays out there. Effective. Now, granted, they did mostly, I think, run a singular unit, which some of the top teams, you see them just put their best guys on the ice for 2 minutes and see what happens. But Detroit will have that flexibility this season to run with probably 2 really good power play units and balanced scoring units. Because if you've got, we'll talk about power play units later on. But the biggest thing there is if that helps spark Philip Zadina, so be it.
Great.
Because again, like we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, you've got certain guys picking up their scoring. That changes a lot of games for this team. And if you're winning 4 or 5 more games, getting a 10-point swing in your standings, and then you got other teams that are dropping off, but then you steal a couple away, that starts to creep up to what we were talking about, that potential 90 to 95 point range and maybe a bubble team range.
Yeah.
And that does wonders because now you've got renewed confidence in these guys like Zadina, for instance. So it's not a all in year for Zadina, but it's a big one in terms of what he can provide for this team.
It's an improvement year. You have to improve this season.
Yeah.
You don't have to take off and be an all-star and score 30 goals, but we need to see a production improvement. We've seen the possession. We've seen the positive work. We've seen some lapses in defense. Tighten your defense up a little bit. Start scoring more goals. Move around. Try scoring from different areas, getting open. We need to see visual in-game improvement from Filip Zadina, and we need to.
And
see
we saw that last year. Not saying that he didn't. So I just want to make that again clear.
Yeah.
I will say the other thing too with Zadina is like, if he can just turn into one of those guys that just scores on the power play, that's something that is beneficial.
Sure.
Either way, I don't care.
Goals are goals. Like
I don't care if he has 20 goals and 10 of them are power play goals.
No.
Fine. Because you know what? The power play last year was pathetic.
Everything.
I don't know that it can be much worse.
Everything was pathetic.
Yes, that's correct. After like the first 20 games of the season, everything pretty much went
right after the All-Star break. That's our safe point of everything just falling off a cliff.
Is someone bothering him in his new house?
No, the boys just got home.
The boys got home.
What's up, boys?
Yeah, they're gonna come in without their shirts on. That's what's gonna
all sweaty and stuff.
They just went to the gym together. These two.
Ooh, sounds like a hot date. Yeah, we're gonna move on to the top 10 Red Wings prospect ranking. So here is and I'm going to name it ours. It's mine. I pulled it together, and you guys can agree or disagree, and that's what we'll talk about. We've got a half an hour to do so. So first up, I think we're all going to agree on this. Our top prospect number 1 is Simon Edvinsson, currently 19 years old, 6'6", 207-pound left shot defenseman out of Ansala, Sweden. Drafted number 6 overall in the first round in 2021 by the Red Wings. Recently had food poisoning at the World Junior Championship. There's some people that I saw online complaining about his performance at the World Juniors.
Upset about him.
You go try playing hockey with food poisoning. I can't play hockey without food poisoning. So imagine what it is like. But last season in Frölunda in the SHL in 44 games played, he had 2 goals and 17 assists for 19 points and had 2 points in the 5 playoff games. I said earlier today, I believe he is as close to a lock as you can be to make this team out of camp. Again, it's all going to depend on camp performance, but I think he's going to make it. If he goes to Grand Rapids, I don't think it'll be for long, but he's one of the top prospects. He was ranked, I believe, number 10 by NHL Fantasy as top rookies going into next season. And that's exciting to me.
I think a lot of those guys that are on that list have already played games in the NHL, like Kent Johnson and
a few
Beniers and Power and all those guys. So,
I mean, if you look at JFresh's prospect cards, there's a cool one where it'll tell you their projected chance of becoming a full-time NHLer and their projected chance of becoming a star. And becoming an NHLer is playing 200 plus games with a positive WAR, meaning you're positively impacting your team for over 200 games during your career. If you have a star, it's top 18.5% of WAR per 82 games. And Simon Edvinsson's projected chance of becoming a full-time NHLer is 99%. Becoming a star is 6%. I don't agree with that. I think it's higher than that. Do I think Edvinsson will be as good as our savior, Mo Seider? Probably not. I'm going to probably say no. But I think he can... His ceiling is still a top pair defenseman. And that's what you want. I mean, eventually you want him to be Mo's partner.
I think ideally, you almost want Edvinsson to be the better, maybe offensive threat. Because
or more consistent offensive guy.
Yeah. I mean, we already know that Mo is a dangerous offensively.
Yep.
But, I mean, you could argue that Edvinsson offensively could end up being better. Now, that's a pure assumption, of course, but from what we've seen in terms of the way he can do the outlet pass, how he's much more, I feel like he's a little bit more aggressive. And
he joins the rush a lot.
Yeah, he pushes much more than what Mo necessarily would do. Because Seider's going to hurt you with the pass, not necessarily flying up the ice, but he can do both. But Edvindsson's skating, I think, sets him apart a little bit more in terms of maneuverability and in the way he's able to actually go at the net. He uses that a bit more to his advantage, and I think he did that a lot this past season as well. So if that's your case and that's your top pairing, again, like if Edvinson's putting up the points, Mo's your complement there, but also your shutdown guy, you're not going to have a lot of people upset about that. But that's not also to say, and I'm not saying that Sider's not going to put points up, because that's almost a given at this point as well.
Yeah.
But you got to think as they progress, unless you really want to. I mean, hell, that could be your point guys for your power play.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose anything from it.
No, not at all. No, Sider should still consistently be one of the top defensive point producers in the league on a yearly basis.
To me, I mean, there's still the chance, and I know I remember reading articles and watching some videos on Simon Edvinsson and some stuff like that. After he was drafted, a lot of the comparisons are Victor Hedman, and that's kind of the same thing for Mo Sider, but in this case, Edvinsson could be, that really good offensive threat. And if he can get his defensive game all the way together, then he could potentially be a better player than Mo Sider and a better defenseman altogether than Mo Sider.
You mean more complete?
That's saying a lot. I don't think that's the case, but you never know. And I mean, it's a good problem to have. Let's put it that way.
And I think we need to make it obvious, if it wasn't already, that we're not taking anything away from Sider. Like, that is just what we see as a potential for Edvinsson. Now, things can change, of course, but like, you have the ability or potential here to have two of the top defensemen in hockey on your team for a very long time. Like, these could, if everything plays out the way the crystal ball is showing us right now, like that, you have two of the top 10 defensemen in all of hockey.
You're going to get your new Lidstrom Rafalski,
but bigger,
right? So
in a way, you could almost say it's the new Murphys in Lidstrom.
Sure, and I
mean, go
that's
back a little bit further.
That's what we need.
Konstantin off Lidstrom.
Oof, come on.
I mean, hey.
Oh. All right. Well, before we get into number 9, or number 2,
number 2.
Before we get into number 2, we need to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. The wait is almost over. A new football season is about to begin. Get ready for the NFL Week 1 action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To celebrate the return of football, DraftKings is giving new customers a can't-miss offer. Bet just $5 on any football game and get $200 in free bets instantly. Want more action for opening night? Everyone can experience the thrill of DraftKings early win promotion. Get up 7, you win. Bet on any NFL team of your choice, and if your team leads by 7 points at any point during the game, you get paid instantly, even if your team loses. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So I've been listening to a lot of the Factually podcast with Adam Conover. You might know him from Adam Ruins Everything, and it's been great. One reason it's been great to listen to, because I use my Raycon wireless earbuds to do it. Raycon's everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. With optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, these earbuds are so comfortable and they will not budge, trust me. Raycons give you 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life and are priced just right. You get quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands. It's no wonder Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 50,000 5-star reviews. They have 3 customizable sound profiles, whether you're listening to music or podcasts like us. They have earbud tap functions to start, stop, pause, answer your phone calls, the earbud functions you need without having to open up your phone and flip through options. And they have noise isolation, which blocks out the outside noise so you can hear what you're listening to a lot better. For me personally, I enjoy the awareness mode that lets you hear kind of outside conversations if you're listening to something, but also need to pay attention to what's going on around you. So go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN. And we're back and on to number 2. Now this one is a little bit debated, and I went with Jonathan Berggren at number 2. Jonathan Berggren.
We back up real quick, actually, before we go too much
back
deeper.
Up real quick.
Obviously, because we're not including Sider and Raymond because of their NHL time.
These are people that have not played on the Detroit Red Wings as of recording date.
Got it. So I just want to make that point because, I mean, if you go to like The Athletic and they bust out their prospect rankings.
They get people under 23, I think is what they include.
Yeah, it's a little bit differently. So I just wanted to I know we just did talk about Evanson as number 1, but we didn't really rehash that. It's not guys currently playing in Detroit. It's those that are not
people
yet.
not on the team, have not played a game for the Detroit Red Wings. So you will see no Joe Veleno. You will see no Michael Rasmussen. It's people who have not played a game. And Jonathan Berggren, 5'11", 194, out of Uppsala, Sweden. Drafted round 2, number 33 overall in 2018. Shoots left. Last season, played for the Grand Rapids Griffins. Had 64 points in 70 games. That's 21 goals, 43 assists. My God, if he does not play for the Detroit Red Wings next season, there's going to be a lot of A, upset people. I will be one of them. And B, he's so good. Berggren is, I mean, it hurts me to say this, but I have watched a clip of what looked like Datsuk style passes from Jonathan Berggren.
Yeah, I keep it in the Swedes. I keep it with Zetterberg.
There are a bunch of people that make the Zetterberg comparison as well. I'm very excited for him, and I think
he plays center.
He can play. So he has played center.
Oh yeah, he has.
Yeah, he goes back and forth.
That's right. He has.
He's a little small for center. I mean, 5'11", 194. So he's bigger for a guy that's 5'11" at 194.
Mm-hmm.
But at wing, he's just so dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. In tight, the passes he makes in tight, especially like right around the net, are very scary. And I need to see him play. And I really want to see him in a top 6 role. And I don't think it'll happen. But if your third line is something like Berggren, Suter, Zadina, if you need a guy to set up Zadina and you need Zadina to get open more and you need him to get crisp passes, Berggren's the guy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super scary. He's 22 years old. It's time for him to go. I mean, it's time for him to get up on the team and go. And I'm excited to see what he's got, but he's my lock at number 2.
I like him inside the top 5. I don't know if I like him at number 2. And is he the most likely ready for the NHL? Probably. Again, you could argue that with Edvinsson, but I would probably have Berggren at 4. And the way I've been leaning towards it, and maybe it's recency bias, but it's also because of how much of a need it is for this team, is I would put Kasper at 2.
See, I thought about that, but right now, everyone has seen what Kasper has done recently. Now, that is preseason. They're still in preseason. Kasper, to me, I've got Kasper at 4.
Okay.
I have Sebastian Kosa at 3.
Okay.
So Kasper, I really like what he's done, but I need a bigger sample size to move him up. I have a good sample size of Berggren, and Berggren has consistently impressed me for the past 3 seasons. Yeah, especially after coming back from his injuries.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, we've been talking about Berggren for a very long time, and maybe it's because of the injuries that I'm a little bit nervous about, and the fact that he finally had a full season under his belt, and albeit in the AHL, no less.
And wasn't that the Griffins' point record in a season?
For rookie? Yeah, he broke the rookie point record.
Yeah, 64 points in 70 games. That was a record.
So he absolutely crushed it. Is he the most NHL ready on this of all the guys we're probably going to talk about? I think so. Is he kind of blocked right now? Potentially. But Kasper, I think because of what he will bring to this team and obviously the value of being a top NHL pick, it's hard to argue that him being 6'1", 187, 190, he's going to put on more muscle.
Who, Kasper?
Yeah.
6'1", 192 right now.
He's shown as 192 now? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you got to think that with what Larkin brings to this team, is he going to be better than Larkin or about the same level?
I don't think so. I think he'll be right under Larkin.
That's great. That to me, I mean, you can't push back against a playmaker like Berggren. but you do need to have that value. And I think because he's a center, maybe, and again, the recency bias that I mentioned, I think that's why I've got Casper at 2, because the longevity of what we're looking for, that's going to be one of the most important positions. Now, Bergeron could also come in and play center, and then everything I just said gets thrown out the window. So, but I just think
they'll do it on purpose, Ryan. They'll do it just to spite you.
But I just think for what you need from Casper, the type of player that he's going to be, which you can really look at what he does and what Larkin does, and you can see the same type of player, maybe with a little bit more skill offensively at this point in his career at 18 years old. So that's where I'm at with him being 2 in comparison.
Now, just for other reference, people were saying, how can people that haven't been up on prospects, how can Bergeron's game translate from the SHL to the AHL? In his last season in the SHL 2020-21 with Skellefteå in the SHL, in 49 games played, he had 45 points. So the production between that and transition to North American ice is a couple points off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's playing against adults in Sweden to playing against adults in North America. And the production is still there. So there's no dip, which is I would say the most exciting thing, is because some people who played in the SHL really struggle with the transition to the North American ice, the physicality of the game, which is why someone asked earlier about Pontus Andreasen, who I'm interested to see how he plays next season. Do I think he'll make the Red Wings roster? With the way it looks right now, probably not. He'll probably be one of the first call-ups. But I'm interested to see how his game translates to Grand Rapids, because if it does translate in like a 1-to-1, basically like Bergeron's did, you're going to have a hell of a player.
Yeah.
And then if he doesn't make it next season, you sign him again and you bring him in the season after. So Bergeron was my lock at 2. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
I got no problem with that. We've been waiting on Bergeron for a little while now, but not bad for a second round pick, being your second prospect. And then, that Zetterberg comparison. I've also seen the Datsyuk comparison in terms of the playmaking and the hockey IQ. Maybe not the hands. Definitely not the hands. But
he is smooth.
But he's definitely a smooth player. I like a lot of what I've seen of him. A lot of people said he was probably NHL ready last year. I would push back on that and say he probably was maybe halfway through the year, but not right at the beginning. He's got to make this team.
He's going to be fired up too.
How can you justify him not making the team at this point? He's going to be 23, right? Or no, he's 22
He's
now.
22 right now. Yeah,
22 right now.
His birthday's in July.
Yeah, he won't turn 23 until next year. So, I guess one more year in the AHL, but even, that just doesn't seem right to me at this point. Seems like he's pretty much done everything he's had to do in the AHL and in all levels below the NHL. So I think it's time for him to make the team. I really do.
If you think about what the potential could be there, because you got to maybe assume that he would come in on the wing, right?
Yeah, he would have to come in on the wing.
So if you have him coming in on the wing, you don't want him on your fourth line. That's the big one. You know that him cracking the top 6 is going to be near impossible. So the safe bet would be that he's on your third line. So now you're having to make a sacrifice of who?
Adam Ernie.
Okay. Or
bye.
Giovanni Smith.
Bye.
So but they're not going to be on your third line. So that there's a guy falling off your fourth line. So who do you drop now? Because you got to think that maybe the third line is going to be what? Suter, Sundqvist, Kubalik?
Here's the thing. Kubalik, Suter, Zadina is probably going to be your third line.
Okay. So who drops? Kubalik?
That's the thing. Kubalik at that point would have to drop down to the fourth line. This is where we get into the horrible situation where the Red Wings finally have depth. Yeah. There's this thing called depth in the NHL.
Well, it's something that we bottom 6 depth.
It's something that we haven't seen for the past 6+ years, and we have it now. So at this point, and I'm still holding out, there's got to be a trade coming somewhere.
Yeah, because Fabry comes back and something's got to give.
Eventually, absolutely.
So I think that's the only sticking point for Bergeron is that there is a roster set of NHL players.
Yep.
So
already,
which one of those is going to have to be removed in order for him to make himself on this roster? Last year was a little bit simpler when it came to Raymond cracking his team because there wasn't shit for him to beat out.
Sure, but he was also really good.
Yeah, it also helped that Vrana got hurt, so that maybe increased his chances quite a bit. But unless something like that similarly happens for Bergeron, it's going to be a lot more difficult. I mean, it's not out of the question, but his odds aren't as good, at least at the start of the season, to me.
Got it. I think the whole point of you saying something's got to give, I mean, it kind of has to, doesn't it? I mean,
it will,
especially if once Fabry comes back. Like, is it Fabry that you trade out? Is it Bertuzzi that you trade out? Do you trade one of your young guys? Do you trade a Bergeron, or do you trade a Zadina and see if you can? I don't even know. I don't know. What would you trade those guys for?
That's why we're not paid to do that, and we're just kind of here to speculate.
We're here to fuck around, tell jokes, and talk hockey. That's what we're here to do.
Something's got to give at some point here, though.
As we get to camp and we start getting some impressions of the guys and what they've got going on, then we can maybe start going into the tinfoil hat mode and see who's going to be making this roster or not.
And this is going to be a fierce camp. But on to number 3, my number 3 is Sebastian Cossa.
I'm not even going to fight that one.
Right now, it's funny. Elite Prospects has him listed as Sebastian Cossa, Grand Rapids Griffins. Which is interesting. 19 years old, born November 21st, 2022, 6'6", 209 pounds. Did I say 2022? November 21st, 2002.
Cat Friendly actually has him there too.
209 pounds. He catches left. He was drafted. We traded up round 1, number 15 overall in 2021. Last season for the Edmonton Oil Kings in 46 games played. That's a lot of games. He had a 2.28 goals against and a 913 save percentage. In the playoffs, he had 19 games played with a 193 goals against and a 919 save percentage. If you want a goalie that shows up in the playoffs, Sebastian Cossa is your guy. He played 1 game in the World Junior Championships with a 2.0 goals against and a 917 save with the win. Cossa, I feel so bad for goalies. In the 3 versus 3 at prospect camp, he got lit up on the glove side. Glove side is something he has to work on, but people trashed him. And I said, guys, it's a 3v3 tournament where goalies are trying not to get hurt. That's the one thing. Like, he has more important things to do. More important things to do, like a World Junior Championship to be at, than not to get hurt at prospect camp. And B, it's 3-on-3. That's not real full game situation. Like, this is basically a skills comp for the forwards at that point, a 3-on-3 game. So I'm not worried about Cossa. He is athletic. He moves quickly. He gets into position. Sometimes he can act frazzled. Yes. He needs to work on the glove hand. Yes. He gets beat glove side a lot. That's something that can be taught. So I assume with Westland, who's the new goaltender coach, that is something that will be worked on. Cossa is still, I believe, rated as one of the top prospects in hockey currently. And I can't worry about it. Goalies are so weird. And he's 19. I don't expect him to be in Detroit until he's 22. So, and that's still young. I mean, how old was Carter Hart when he came over? I mean, that was still early 20s.
21, I think.
Yeah.
So.
No, I thought he was 20 when he came in.
He was still not 19 years old. So you're expecting a lot from a 19-year-old. He could go back to junior. Like I said, Elite Prospects has him in Grand Rapids. If Cap Friendly also has him in Grand Rapids, it's a possibility. There's a job that could be taken. I mean, they have UC Okanora, who is slated for Grand Rapids right now. They picked up a goalie from Michigan State, who I believe is also slated for Grand Rapids right now. Cossa could go to Toledo. I don't think he should, but he could. I think he's AHL bound. I think he starts off in a backup role. Great guy. I've talked to him a couple times. He's super excited. He has the drive. He's huge. I mean, he's a huge hulking guy. If you ask Daniela, she has to stare up at him while talking. And I mean, I'm still excited for him. He's my lock at number 3.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight that one. You know, a 19-year-old goalie that is 6'6". I mean, those don't grow on trees exactly. So
they grow like trees. Apparently,
they grow like trees. Yeah, that's a good point.
Played.
Right?
Well
so,
played.
I mean, I have no problem with that. He's not going to be in Detroit for 2 more years,
at
right?
At least.
Yeah,
there's no rush.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. At least it's a good again, like we said before, it's a good problem to have. You know, you have Nedeljkovic and you have Ville Husso in Detroit, and then you have Kosa in the pipeline. So I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan concurs. We're gonna move on to number 4. I have Marco Kasper at number 4. Now, this is probably where Ryan would put Berggren.
Yep.
But Marco Kasper, 18 years old, out of Innsbruck, Austria, drafted number 8 overall in 2022. He is 6'1", 192 pounds. He plays center and he's a left shot. Last season in Rogla in 2021-22, he played 12 games and had 13 points in the J20. And then for the SHL team, had 46 games played with 11.7 goals, 4 assists. And he played in the all his international play last season, had 11 games played with 6 points. Marco Kasper has been killing it in preseason. He's trying everything. He's doing the Michigan. He's deking guys out. He's scoring goals, which is really important. And that's what I want to see, is the offense from Marco Kasper.
Nope.
Because the offensive numbers in the SHL do not jump off the page at all. And the skills there. Yzerman wouldn't have taken him, and I trust Yzerman because he hasn't done me wrong yet. And we'll forget the Brandon Perlini thing. But everybody gets one, as Spider-Man says in Family Guy. But I'm excited to watch more of Marco Kasper because of what I've seen in preseason. And he looks like he's just going to go tear it up. And he's playing with other Red Wings prospects in William Wallander and Theodor Niederbach. So those are two other guys in my top 10. So I'm excited to see it. And I think, like we said, I think his ceiling is just one of the league's best 2Cs. Honestly, like that 1C bubble, just where he's good enough to fill in for a 1C if you need him. But I think he's going to be one of the best 2Cs in the league, and I'm really excited to see him get going.
I wouldn't argue with that one. I like your list so far. I think this is where he falls. I think it's a little bit too early to have him any higher than this. No offense, Ryan.
Yeah, whatever.
But I mean, he's playing with Rogla. What does he got? 3 wings with him, or two other
ones? William Wallander and Theodor Niederbach.
So, I mean, the sky's the limit for him. I really do believe that. I think that there's still a chance that he could be a 1C. I know you say he could be a 2C. I think that Steve Yzerman drafted him where he drafted him, and there's a chance that he can still be a 1C or a 1A, 1B kind of
Anything's
situation.
Possible, Tyler.
That's kind of where I'm at with him. I'd like to see his offense come a little bit more. I think he's great defensively. I think there's a chance that if his offense comes, I mean, he's going to be what do you think, ceiling 50, 60 point per season kind of guy?
Ceiling? I'd say
well, as a 2C, 60, 70?
I mean, people argue that Larkin's a 2C and he's almost putting up a point per game.
That's true.
So, I mean, I think you're where you want Kasper, if this is going to be a playoff team, is 70 points. At least.
That's fair.
Because if you got him going to 70 points, especially if he's behind Larkin and Larkin's your 1C putting up 80, like you're in a pretty damn good spot. We touched on that a little bit again last week, I think, with some of the point getters for like centers on tier, like bubble teams. And most of those guys were probably, I think, around 70, 80 points. So if you've got that going on, and this even includes some of the top teams, like the Capitals made the playoffs and their top scorer was Alex Ovechkin for obvious reasons. But like if you've got Casper and Larkin putting up 70 apiece, your offense is clicking pretty good.
Well, the other thing too that you got to take into consideration as well is the fact that, like, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when they're ready to at least make that jump to being a contender, they're gonna, he's gonna have some really good talent around him to be distributing the puck to. We just talked about Jonathan Berggren. That's another guy that, he's probably a second line winger. And that puts him in the same situation with Casper being on that line, feeding him the puck. You know what I mean? And so, obviously Berggren's more of a playmaker, but there's still a chance that he could score some goals as well. So.
Yep. And Marco Casper is going to be back with Rogla next season in the SHL.
This coming. Yeah.
Yeah, but this coming.
I just want to see his ice time increased. That's it. If that's happening, he's playing regular minutes in Rogla. Yep. That's a win for this.
I want him as a top line center is what I want. Yep. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but it's what I want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want.
So tell me what you want.
What you really, really want.
Marco Casper is the 1C in Rogla. Thank you guys for playing along. At number 5 on my prospect list is Albert Johansson. Ooh. That is my number 5. Albert Johansson drafted number 60 overall in 2019 from Karlstad, Sweden. He is 21 years old, 6 foot, 168 pound left shot defenseman. And last season for Färjestad on loan in 2021-22, in 52 games played, he had 5 goals and 20 assists for 25 points, including 8 points in 19 playoff games. He is slated to play in Grand Rapids next season. He is quoted as being a mobile, modern defenseman with good puck handling skills, has most tools you want in a defenseman from Thomas Roden in 2020. That was the most recent quote on him. I know that our friend, the bald king, Tony Ferrari, is pretty high on Albert Johansson. He's just, a solid defenseman. Mm-hmm. And I think he is more complete and more NHL ready than William Wallander, who is what a lot of people compare him to. I think that Wallander himself showed that during the World Juniors. But I think that Albert Johansson is the closest to NHL ready besides Simon Edvinsson out of the defensemen. And that I have him as a mid-pairing guy. You're probably going to have to flex him down to bottom because of our defensive depth right now. And that's not a bad thing. But I think Johansson right now, because of where he is at and his ability to probably be able to step into the NHL next season if he had to, is my number 5.
So I'm looking at your list that you sent a little bit ago. I would probably flip him with Soderblom, but I think that's because of my obsession with this offense still needing to be better.
The Jolly Green Giant.
Yeah, Lord Elmer at 5 would be for me. And I know we've swooned over him several times already, but the size and the skill that he brings. Now, this is a big season because he is confirmed in Grand Rapids, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this one, like, here's where not having Berggren in Detroit isn't such a bad thing. And it's because of guys like potentially Edmondson and Soderblom and
Johansson,
others that could end up being in Grand Rapids this season. You've got the Swedish connection going on down there. And these guys are only going to make each other better. So if Soderblom, to me, yes, our defense still needs help, like as we move along, but that's where you've got that space to wait a little bit for Johansson. So Soderblom, I think, would be my lock at number 5 because near term, he's got more of a chance to make that impact on this team. And it's going to be fun because he is a big sumbitch.
It'll at least be interesting to watch.
Yeah. If he pulls the between the legs goal on somebody, it's over.
If he even attempts it, I'll give him an A for effort if he attempts it.
Yep. So that's my only switch because Soderblom is just, I like what he can bring offensively, and he just adds to that Yzerman. I'm gonna jack you up with my huge ass players.
Tyler, do you have anything on Johansson before we move to Soderblom, because he's my number 6?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of him. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, from what you've said and from what I've heard, I mean, he's a 6-foot defenseman. He's gonna be one of those guys that, when the team is ready to take that next step, is going to be that second set of D pair or second D pair defenseman. So, I mean, not a whole lot. I would say I would agree with Ryan. I would probably put Soderblom there instead of Johansson. But, I mean, again, another good problem to have. So, yeah.
So at number 6, I do have Elmer Soderblom, 21 years old, 6'8", 249 pounds, out of Göteborg, Sweden. He is a left shot winger, drafted, and now this is where Steve Yzerman makes his money, drafted round 6, number 159 overall by the Detroit Red Wings. Last season in Frölunda, in 52 games played, had 21 goals and 12 assists for 33 points, including 6 points in 9 playoff games, slated to play in Grand Rapids next season, slated to lay people on their asses. The reason that Soderblom for me is at 6 is because of his skating.
Fair.
He is, being that ginormous, he is slow. The foot speed is slow. Now, is that something that can be improved with time? Yes. That is something that can be improved. Look at Rasmussen. He's a good example. But the Power Edge Pro is the thing that I think Dylan Larkin's really big on. The team is really big on. And it is improved skating in guys like Michael Rasmussen. Looking at Jay Fresh's prospect cards, Elmer Soderblom has an 85% chance of becoming a full-time NHLer, which is really good. And a 7% chance of becoming a star. And this is where you play the, so you're telling me there's a chance gif. And there is, because I think the star potential for him is not based on his output, but just his size and how he plays, because the guy's got hands. That's the other thing, is a guy like that, a lot of times when they're that big, they're known for just knocking people over or playing keep away. He does that, but he can also score goals, and he's scored some really pretty ones. And it's, if that can develop, and you've got a guy that's 6'8", like 200, and he's going to put on more weight. So say he's 6'8", 260, and he's putting up 30 plus points a season, 35 points a season on the third line. I mean, that right there for me is like, it's a star player, but not in the traditional sense of a star player.
Would he be like Detroit's version? And I know it's so easy to make the comparison to Tampa, but of like an Alex Killorn?
I think, okay, that's, I think, a fair comparison in like maybe an output perspective. But I think the game is different between Killorn and
well, yeah, I guess that's what I meant, like offensively, that he can just out of nowhere be like, holy hell, what did he just do?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think he can surprise a lot of people. I think he will surprise a lot of people because he's on our radar, but he's not on, I mean, if you go to a Florida Panthers fan and you go, how about Elmer Soderblom? And they'll be like, who the fuck are you talking about? And I think that's fuck count. Well, that makes 3. Sorry. We've said it 3 times so far. But
said it twice.
I've said it twice. Tyler said it once. I think that that's the kind of thing that you like having, not even just a character guy, but more of, he is a character guy. Like, comics can be written about Elmer Soderblom because of how large he is. So I know our guy Lars loves Elmer. The Australians love Elmer. He is Elmer the Behemoth, destroyer of worlds.
He's an international man of mystery.
Greg, was it you that made the Photoshop?
I do have a very, very good
ridiculous
Twitter thread that's like 48 pictures long of every time someone liked it. And I think it's more, for every 10 likes it got, I made him larger. And that thread is still out there, and I'll retweet it. But it was really funny. But Elmer is my number 6. And he's actually one. Now, he's number 6 on my list, but he's one that I'm most excited to see play in the NHL.
Yeah. I think it's just because of the size that he brings to the ice, because you put him out there, like you see pictures of him with other Wings prospects or other players.
Yeah, he looks like their dad. Their dad
it's like a small
a
child. But what's funny is that now you've got several Red Wings on the roster that are just like that. But again, they're also all highly skilled players. So this team is going to be very large and in charge, for lack of better words.
It's going to take on the character of the Motor City. It's going to be a tough team to play against.
Ooh, who's going to be called the Rensen?
It'll be the Soder City.
Soder City.
I have a new T-shirt idea, guys.
Got to get the Detroit Skyline.
Coming up with T-shirt ideas.
Detroit Skyline and put prospect heads on it.
I'm going to have the Uniroyal tire and then just Elmer like 20 feet taller than it.
Oh, my God.
It'll be pretty sweet.
That'd be
taller than the Ambassador Bridge.
We're going to run through the last ones here pretty quick. My number 7 is William Wallander, 20 years old, out of Sollefteå, Sweden, 6'4", 190-pound left shot defenseman.
Playing with Casper.
Wallander last season in Rögle, he had 47 games played with 19 points, 4 goals, 15 assists. He was voted, what was he voted? Rookie of the Year or Best Young Player of the Year?
Beat out Edmondson for a top rookie award.
Yes, but I don't think Edmondson was in for that award. The SHL does their awards really weird.
I without looking, and I know that he did win one of the top rookie awards out there.
So Wallander improved his game. The thing is Wallander improved his game a lot.
Yep.
He was a toolbox with a lot of tools, but didn't put them together. He started putting them together last season. If he can keep going, he will jump up my rankings. He showed during the World Juniors that he needs to work on his defense. His timing and gap control need to be better. His reaction time needs to be better, and he needs to learn to get back quicker. That's the thing, is that the defensive game of Wallander needs to be picked up a bit. That's what puts him a little lower on my list. Like I said, he could move up if he can fix that. And again, he was drafted number 32 overall in 2020. He's 20 years old. He's got time to do it. He is going to be playing in Rögle again next season, so he's staying over in the SHL.
So he's really marinating.
Yeah. Well, he's 20. That's not terrible.
Yeah. It's for what he can bring or potentially, and staying in Rögle, it's not going to be a detriment to him, especially for what's already over here. So it's, yeah,
not going to hurt. My number 8 right now, and this one's for you, Pete, Donovan Sebrango. Donovan Sebrango is my number 8 on the Detroit Red Wings prospect list. He is 20 years old, out of Ottawa, Ontario. Left shot defenseman, 6'1", 194, drafted in round 3, number 63 overall in 2022. Last season, now he is the one that because of COVID was allowed to go to the AHL and forego his OHL career. For the AHL, in 65 games played, he had 7 points, but points are not what Donovan Sebrango is about. Right. Donovan Sebrango is about beating the shit out of you. And it's not just beating the shit out of you. It is being gritty, getting under your skin, being a defensive defenseman and staying at home. At one point during the World Juniors, I think he was called their best defenseman. Yeah. And that is because he can shut you down. And that is what he is here to do. His mother is an absolute joy. I have talked to her several times on Twitter. And I think he is a guy who tomorrow could jump into a bottom 4 defensive role and just thrive and be really good at shutting guys down. And he is number 8 on my list because of how ready I think he is. And the World Junior performance really, really impressed me.
Yeah, he is one of those guys that maybe if you look at the current young roster players in Detroit, is that he is could probably be an easy replacement for a Gus Lindstrom.
And already.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe not yet because of what they already have on the NHL side of things and the way that it's been built out. So you got to think that Sebrango's got at least 2 more years that he can wait it out, get those simple contracts, get a bridge mixed in there at some point. and then he can finally make that appearance. He could very well see NHL ice this season depending on how things go. But it's an exciting one to have as a potential bottom pair shutdown guy. Maybe think who's one of the big left-handed defensemen that we recently had that went to Colorado?
Nemeth, Patrick Nemeth.
Yeah, think Patrick Nemeth in terms of the way he was there to be a shutdown guy, and he made those moves. But Sebrango, I think, has a lot more mobility, and he can actually fly up and down the ice and make those plays that you would not necessarily expect him to make. So this is a huge year, I think, for him in Grand Rapids to really make a name for himself, even more so.
What about a grittier, more mobile John Merrill?
That's fair.
How about a faster and less dirty version of Ben Sherratt?
That's another one.
Yeah, but Sherratt does bring some offense if you need to. So does Sebrango. So yeah, I guess that's a hell of a comparison, but that's probably a fair one too.
Look at
that. Look at Tyler go
from the top rope 2 weeks out.
So we've got
it's fun. We'll see.
So we've got two more coming in at number 9, and simply because of his last season and how psyched I am for him is Carter Mazur. Carter Mazur, 20 years old, out of Jackson, Michigan. So Michigan native, round 3, number 70 overall in 2021. He is 6 foot, 170 pounds. So he has some weight to put on. Last season played for the University of Denver. In 41 games played, had 14 goals and 24 assists for 38 points. And in 5 games at the World Juniors, had 5 goals and 2 assists for 7 points. He has been on fire. He's another one that could really quickly rise up my ranks if he continues to play like this. We had made the Tyler Bertuzzi comparison. Right now, I think that's more than fair. I still think that's more than fair. And the talk is, how long can they keep him at college? If he keeps doing this, like next season, if he goes to Denver, and again, his last season at Denver with 38 points in 41 games, if he repeats that, or say he's at 44 points in 41 games, I don't think you can leave him at college for another 2 years. I think you have to bring him to Grand Rapids at that point.
Yeah.
And he's a pain in the ass player. I say he right now is a Brad Marchand light right now in college, in the NCAA.
He played in the World Juniors, right?
Yeah, 7 points in 5 games.
Yeah, and he played well.
Very well for Team USA.
Yeah, he was the bright point to Team USA.
Yeah, the very little I watched in depth. I was just moving into this place, so we had the World Juniors on, but it was like, we're still cleaning things and whatever. So I didn't watch a lot of the World Juniors, but when I did, you notice Carter Mazur out there, and that's a good place to put him. And the fact that he is one of those guys that wasn't drafted super high, but he's making an impact. I mean, that's everything for a rebuild. That's how you expedite a rebuild. So,
yeah, I think best case scenario for him is that he finishes out his year at Denver, right?
Denver,
yeah. University of Denver.
And with what Grand Rapids could potentially have in terms of the talent level, if Detroit stays healthy all year and you don't see much up and down going on, Grand Rapids is making that heavy playoff push. The odds are good that you're seeing Mazur. Now, granted, they're going to be probably a playoff team in Denver as well for NCAAs, but him coming on late end of the season, signing his ELC, I could see that happening.
Yeah, even if you look at the previous 2 seasons,
they can do PTO, can't they? If they're just going to the Grand Rapids. I wouldn't. I mean, There's
you can get him on his ELC, and if he's not playing
NHL
NHL games, you slide the contract. So,
right, yeah, I can't. Anyways,
so his season before Denver and Tri-City, in 47 games, he had 44 points, 20 goals, and 24 assists. That was really his breakout season in 2020-21. The season before, in 47 games, he had 13 points. So that was his big jump. His aha moment came during that. And the offense just kicked off. It continued to college. I think his style is built for the AHL, for what he does, just how physical he can be and how much he pisses people off. I think he's built for the AHL and could go to Grand Rapids. I don't think he's going to leave college this season. but he could go to Grand Rapids and I think do very well. So Mazur is one that I'm really excited about. And to round out, go ahead.
One final point to that one. Does that worry you, though, that his style is so fitting for the AHL?
No, not at all. Because it would worry me if the offense wasn't there.
Okay.
If the offense wasn't there, you got a Luke Witkowski.
Point.
The offense is there, though. So I think you've got a Tyler Bertuzzi.
So basically where I was going with that is like you kind of touched on it with Witkowski, is that is he going to get too caught up in the aggressive nature of play and forget that he can actually go out there and score goals and make offense?
No, I don't think so, because that was what people I think were worried about with Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi was a shit disturber in his younger career and then figured out, hey, I can score goals. And it looks like Mazur has done the same thing, but a little earlier. So I don't foresee him having that issue.
So you're saying that Carter Mazur's the new Brad Marchand. He's going to be a top 3 winger, top 5 winger in the NHL.
I'm saying he is my Tyler Bertuzzi, Brad Marchand light comparison currently.
I like it.
I do too. It's a guy you want. And to round out the top 10 before we close out the night, Theodor Niederbach is my number 10. He is 5'11", 172 pounds, out of Bjasta, Sweden. I think that's how you say that. It's a J, but I assume it's not a hard J.
Not trying to. Not even trying to.
Shoots right. Was drafted number 51 overall in 2020. Last season with Frölunda, in 51 games played, he had 9 goals and 7 assists for 16 points, but he will be moving to Rögle next season to play with William Wallander and Marco Kasper because he wants to play center, and Frölunda was not going to play him at center. So it says that he is a center or right wing. It seems like he wants to move to center, and if the Red Wings are telling him that's a good move, then seems like they also want him to try and play center. And I think he has a lot of potential. That's the thing. He has really good hockey IQ. He showed pretty well in the World Juniors. In 7 games, he had 4 points, 1 goal, and 3 assists. He needed to stop taking penalties. I watched a game where he took like 3 penalties in a row. Was not good. His last penalty, he was ejected. It was a 5-minute major in a game misconduct for boarding. And it's a guy who's still going to develop. I mean, he's 20 years old. I see him after next season. That will be this next season will be his 2nd year in the SHL, 3rd year technically, because he played in 2021. He played 20 games for Frölunda. He could move to Grand Rapids. They might let him finish 4 in the SHL before moving to Grand Rapids, but I think he's your depth. He'll be a depth piece. But right now, I think he has more of an upside than other prospects out there. And this is aside on Dmitry Buchelnikov, because I need to see him do something other than KHL preseason or MHL, and that is why Niederbach is currently above him.
Is he going to be in the KHL?
Defensemen and goaltenders look stupid in the KHL preseason.
Is he going to be at the top tier, or is he going to be MHL again?
So right now Buchelnikov is on the KHL preseason team. I think he's still slated for MHL, but with the way he's playing, I'm not sure there's a way they could keep him off.
Right. Okay. I was just curious if you had seen anything. I hadn't. That's why I was.
No, I haven't seen final rosters or anything.
Got it.
But yeah, Niederbach. He's my number 10.
Yeah. I'll go with it. I don't have after the names that we've talked about. Like, to me, it's a toss up. I'm not going to get too upset one way or the other. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I think are probably easily interchangeable in terms of the depth at this point for the Wings prospect pool. The ones that are going to make the most impact and going to ruffle the most feathers and get the people most excited, we've touched on. So, if you really want to get crazy with it, you go and look at the Athletic. You got Corey Promin's prospect pipeline rankings. Some of these guys that we talked about, he has them way lower than we do, which is kind of fun. But that's the neat part of it, is that it's all speculation and opinion until they actually make the NHL, and then we see what happens. If they make the NHL.
Yeah, my honorable mentions were Cross Hannes, Emil Vero, Jared McIsaac.
McIsaac's one I'm watching hard this year.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if he has another healthy season, him making Detroit in a depth role next year, I think after this season. So that the possibility of that
you're talking to 23-24.
Yeah.
I could see it.
If he has a healthy year again and actually continues to just do the simple things.
Cool. I want to get you guys' final thoughts before we sign off tonight. And I'm going to start with Tyler in his brand new apartment.
the brand new apartment. Yeah, no. So, I mean, my final thoughts are we're getting closer and closer to hockey season. We're like 4 days away from college football kicking off. So I am pumped beyond belief. This is the best time of year. And about a month, maybe a little bit over a month from now, we'll be watching some NHL preseason. So that'll be fun. Full speed ahead, man. We're on the come here. Hopefully.
Stop saying that.
Didn't we have a conversation about this?
We outlawed that phrase on our show. You will never say that again.
Of all the things that we say that are derogatory, we're
on the upswing.
There you go. That's
cusp,
fine.
You can say cusp.
Beautiful.
On the cusp.
We're on
up and
the
coming.
Upswing of everything. We have not much to talk about right now, but we're on the upswing of getting ready to talk about a lot more positive things and a lot more things to talk about. So, I mean, those are my final thoughts. The other thing I just want to mention too is there could be something that happens tomorrow. Like this Dylan Larkin contract that we talked about could come down tomorrow. So,
and then I'll be making another video.
Yep, correct.
Hey, those 5 minute hitters.
You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
Sorry, Tyler. Well, my final thoughts are we are, as Tyler mentioned, on the cusp.
On the come.
We're really making it.
That bothers me more than the word moist.
Yeah,
the word moist is at least fun. On the come.
No, it's not.
Like it.
That word is disgusting.
You get upset about moist, but
we're not going to say it. Don't say it.
Face say on the come.
Don't say that anymore.
Oh my God.
On the come.
Anyways, we are 2 weeks away from prospect or everyone reporting to camp.
Yeah, about 2 weeks. Yep, I think September 12th or 13th.
So
13th
actually,
or
I
14th.
just pulled it up September 15th through the 26th. So we are just over 2 weeks away. Red Wings hockey is almost back. Hockey in general is almost back. So
thank God.
No more. We got one more fun. I shouldn't say one more, but one fun episode coming up, and right before that, the training camp kicks off. So we are almost there, almost relevant news to talk about. Hopefully a contract in the middle of all that. But already around 33.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. It's just a lot. There's not a lot to talk about right now, but news any minute, like Ryan said. There could be news any minute, and I will be there with the 5-minute majors. And if you like them, go on, subscribe to our YouTube, please. That's a big thing. Turn on the notifications. Whenever news drops, I will be doing one of those videos. I try to get them out within an hour that news drops, and I've been pretty decent at doing it. So go check us out on YouTube. That's going to be my one thing. And subscribe, because I think once we hit 500, we can activate community and we can take comments and stuff and have discussion on YouTube. And we're 90 away from that. So go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can just search us, Grindline Podcast. And instead of listening to us do the podcast, you can also watch us if that's a thing and see my beautiful Mo-Sider Jesus shirt that I'm currently wearing. And it is fantastic. It's one of the best shirts I've ever worn and made. I feel really great when I wear it. But you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. We like to thank the Hockey Podcast Network for hosting our podcast and spreading us around. We also like to thank Vintage Detroit for being just an awesome partner and being the best place to get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. They now have home jerseys all in stock, all sizes in the Prima Green. It is awesome. And we're going to be doing another giveaway soon, so keep track of that. I also like to give a shout out to Howie's Hockey Tape, where if you use the promo code GRINDLINE, you get 10% off your order. And if you use that same promo code at Bring Hockey Back, you will get 12% off your order. You can also find our merch like this shirt on redbubble.com by searching the Grindline. Everything is there for you to peruse, from stickers to, they got hats and phone cases and t-shirts and everything, shower curtains. It's a lot of fun stuff. But go check it out, redbubble.com, search the Grindline. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan and Tyler, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.